Boy, busy weekend. Lots to talk about. Junior freaking Caminero. What a roar and a streak that he is on right now. With a
just as we wrote the Rays off.
Well, this is how it works. For those of you who aren't familiar with me and or the podcast, whatever I say, the opposite is about to happen. You know, probably my best prediction, or worst as the case may be, it was one year I said they're going to lose 100 games. Was that after they traded Longoria, I think?
I think it was after they traded Corey Dickerson to the. They traded him, and then it was a bunch of young kids, and
Felt like a fire sale.
18 or 19, whatever it was.
Yeah, what, they win 100, 103?
No, but they made the playoffs. Like it was.
Yeah, they had no business, and I knew it, but I didn't know it, and then they proved me wrong. So whatever I say, take it to the bank and go the other way. That's what's going to happen. But well, look, they were scuffling around a little bit, so no longer, and that's because of Junior Caminero. We'll talk about that. Baker Mayfield has more things to say in a more conciliatory tone at his football camp this time at Oklahoma. And then, not for nothing, let's start with, I had an interesting weekend.
Yes, you did.
At a national dance competition. For those of you dance dads and dance moms out there, I'm very much into the competitive dance with my daughter Alexandra, and so this was the quote nationals. There's a few of these every year in some place. At the same time, there was a quote nationals in Orlando. That's
it's like in baseball. There's a World Series every weekend somewhere. But
yes, there you go.
The World Series of the tri-state area.
That's it. Yeah, very similar to AAU something, right? Like it doesn't matter. What I've discovered is, first of all, a lot of girls dance because these competitions are massive. But shout out to the Summit Dance Company, I think they called themselves, from Minneapolis, I believe, but don't quote me on that one. These folks brought, and I'm not exaggerating, 260 dancers just from now. I don't know how. Apparently, 2 studios merged up there. It's an enormous undertaking, and I don't know how they have that many teachers, choreographers, or for that matter, dance floors up in the greater Minnesota Twin Cities area. But they dominated everything, as you would expect, just by the sheer numbers, man. So I was just calling it the Summit Invitational. the rest of us were there just to kind of, play the Washington Generals a little bit. But no, the kids did really well. Dance Maker School, the dance did really well. Alexandra did really well. But it was something. And not for nothing, but sharing a Hilton hotel room, with 2 twin beds, and as it turns out, a cot that somebody brought for one of our girls. We had my 2 daughters, another dancer in our room, myself, and my wife. And let me just tell you, the housekeepers, they didn't bother trying to come in because they couldn't get in. If they got in, it was like an obstacle course, trying to, with all the luggage and the costumes and that sort of thing. So they brought towels, dumped, took the old ones, brought new ones, changed the trash cans. That was it. But it was an interesting weekend for me. So yeah, Dan's dad is glad to be home. They still have another day, by the way. I left a day early and ventured from Daytona down I-4. That's quite a ride, by the way. Woof.
Yeah, no.
I-4 to Daytona.
I try to avoid that at all costs.
Oh, my God.
And it's gotten better.
It has, although it's always construction, right? Like no matter, that road is constantly being worked on.
I mean, better's relative, but it's better than it used to be, but it's still bad.
Yeah, still pretty bad. One of the worst or most congested highways. Once you get past Orlando, out of the city, past Disney, past all the resorts, and, can get towards Lakeland or whatever, it starts to smooth out a little bit. But, man, yeah, very nervy drive. Anyway, that was my weekend. Meantime, I was checking in on the Tampa Bay Rays, and particularly, of course, you had the one day, I don't know which day it was, that Junior Caminero hit 3. I guess that was Friday or Saturday night? I can't remember which.
But that was Wednesday, wasn't it?
Oh, was it way back Wednesday? Was it that long ago?
He's hit, 7 home runs in 6 games?
He's hit 7 in 6 games, and he did it again with and this was the longest one, a 463-foot blast that he just lost out in left central. And, we've been talking about how he kind of went cold there for a while. What do you have, like one home run in 15 games or something like that?
I think he had gone 10 games without, and it was like 1 in 21 before.
Was
As
it that
part of
many?
that.
Yeah. So he was really, from a home run standpoint, he was really slumping, and they weren't scoring many runs as a result. And then he just decided to put his team on his back. I mean, against the Royals and the Diamondbacks for those 7 games, he hit 423. He was 11 for 26. 7 of the 11 hits were homers, 15 RBIs, right? Like, that's insane. That's incredibly hot. Did he do something different? Yeah, he kind of did. He sort of did some stuff with his stance, started getting under the ball a little bit, getting the ball in the air, I should say. And with his power and his extension, he can be fooled on a pitch, and he has such great length that he can still barrel it up. And very few guys can do that, and you
And
kind of
quick
get
hands, too. His hands are so
really
quick.
quick hands, and so you can't really beat him inside with fastballs. And if he's fooled on a pitch, he's still able to, to extend the bat and be strong enough to get the ball up in the air, and in some cases, not hit it as well, but still get it out of the park. But he didn't miss many pitches during these last 2 series, and I would say this. And listen, this is just my experience throughout life and in sports and for entertainment, for that matter. If you're really special, like special, right? Tiger Woods, Michael Jackson, right? It shows up really early. It just does. I can't explain it. And I'm not saying that these guys don't work as hard or harder than everybody else, because they do, right? But there's another level, right? Everybody in the major leagues, let's admit, is great. They're not good, they're great, right? They got there because they were the best of the best of the best. They beat incredible odds to even spend one day in the Major League Baseball. Trust me, millions and millions of kids are playing baseball. Precious few will ever see professional baseball at all.
Do you know how many people have actually played professional baseball or major leagues?
It's not as many as I've heard this figure before. What is it?
I believe it's less than 25,000.
Less than 25. That's what I thought. Yeah.
It wouldn't even fill a stadium.
That's crazy to me, but that's in the history of Major League Baseball. So there you go. It's so hard that it's somewhat incalculable in a way. So they're all really, really good. Okay. But then in that subset, you have the great of the really, really great and really, really good. And that's where Junior Caminero lives. And not only does he live there, he's 22 years old. And he's doing things that you have to go through the record book to try to figure out the last time somebody at that age did this, right? And so I know he went through a period where, when we talked about the lack of their home runs and how difficult they were trying to score runs, and it's hard to constantly have to, manufacture them as they had. But once he got going again, and you see the tear that he's on, like that's rare even for major league players. I mean, that is the rarest of rare. What was it? Bryce Harper has done this twice before his 22nd birth, or around 22 years old. Very few players has, enjoyed the last, 6 or 7 games the way Caminero has in their careers. And so here are the Rays, who had, gone through a pretty tough stretch, and now they bounced back. 5th straight win now. They're 48-33. So
they're at the halfway point. Yep.
First half of the season, they completed it. And guess what? They're sitting atop the American League East again. The Yankees are now, what, a game back?
A game behind, yeah.
Yeah.
The Rays are the best team in the American League once again.
Yeah. And get this.
The Yankees got swept by the Red Sox.
Yeah, how about that? What a gift for the Rays to have that happen. Rays home record, 31-12. Yee.
Yeah, that's silly.
I mean, they posted their 5th winning streak of at least 5 games this season, and their 8th sweep, right, which is the most in the majors. 7 of them have come at Tropicana Field. 7 sweeps of their 8. It's the perfect ballpark, and not for nothing, but Drew Rasmussen, just went out there and threw 6 no-run, 3-hit innings,
Mm-hmm.
So he's 7-4 now with a 2.45 ERA. That's the second best in the American League. The bullpen, they had a bullpen day the other day where it was all bullpen, and what?
Well, when Ian Seymour goes 6 2/3,
almost threw a
no hit.
no-hitter. Yeah. And then, they whatever they needed today, they mopped up. So, but the straw that's stirring the drink, and we can talk a lot about Yandy Diaz, and apparently he's got a little bit of a shoulder issue, but just what he has.
Yeah,
meant.
that's the one worrisome thing. He's got a shoulder strain. Now, he said he's had this before.
Yeah,
he's listed as day to day.
Yeah,
but I'm okay. I'm okay. Be cautious. I mean, they're off today, but be cautious with him.
Yeah, maybe give him a second day off, right? Maybe double it up, right? Because you can't be without that guy. I mean, he is their MVP right now. I mean, I would say just for all that he does, right? The leadership part, obviously, the batting average, the RBIs and home runs, things like that. But Junior Caminero is doing things at 22 that you don't even see in the big leagues very often, and for that reason, it's going to be interesting because how much more do you need to see to know that he's going to be a guy that you're going to obviously want to lock up long term? For years and years, some of the Rays' bigger stars would get out, David Price or whoever it would be, Blake Snell, that kind of thing. In this case, and of course they did it with Wander, and his case is pending and all that stuff. But I don't know how soon that Caminero would be willing to listen. But man, Junior Caminero, if he continues this path for the rest of this season, it would look like to me that he's got to become one of those Rays for life. Like that's a guy you can't let out of your organization, for all the ones that they have. He's just showing that he's that special. I don't know I guess he's on pace to hit about as many as he hit last year. But who knows? I mean, if you're gonna hit 7 in 6 games, you could well eclipse that before the season is over.
Mm-hmm.
But he's unbelievable. Like this is amazing how easy he's making it look at the major league level. It's not that easy. It's not. And with the power numbers coming back, and he had struggled for a long time, but then there you see again, he says, one little adjustment and I'm getting the ball in the air more. And that's going to be the key for him because once he does, he gets such great, power and depth on it and backspin and all that stuff. And the ball's flying out of Tropicana. So, man, I couldn't believe every time I looked up at my phone, it said home run Junior Caminero. It was I had to keep looking and go, wait a minute. Is that the first home run they're talking about? Like, no, 2, no, 3, then he does it, lead off again the next day. And then, then today, 400 and, something feet. It's, if you got to be excited if you're a Rays fan. You get to watch this guy. He's 22, hadn't turned 23 yet. You watch this guy for another 10 years. What could he become?
Well, you hope that you can watch him for 10 years. And this is the dilemma that new ownership now has.
Oh.
Is, Stu Sternberg did not extend him last year, but basically I'm selling the team. So
yeah, why would I?
You don't want to commit 8, 10, 12 years down the road, right? So you're going to let the new ownership do it.
Let the new owners do it, yeah.
Now new ownerships come in, and they've got to get a stadium done first.
Sure.
Because that's going to impact the finances.
It's going to help them pay for it, yeah.
So they got to figure that out. But they also have a work stoppage possibly happening.
Oh, I think there will be, yeah.
And it could change the way contracts and what you can do, how long they are, which baseball wants to limit it to 5 or 6 years now. That's never going to fly.
Right.
But they're throwing everything in there now, baseball is. And, it could put a cap and a floor.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do if you're Zalipsky and Neander and Ken Babby and that? And by the way, you still have about 150, 160 million on the hook for Wander Franco.
Well,
as of now, you're not paying out, but
I know. It's so problematic. It really is.
He is under contract through 2033 or 2032. Actually, there's a club option for 2033. And So this year, if he came back this year, he's owed $15.5 million, or what would be prorated. Next year, if he's on the team, it's 22.5 almost.
Those are big contracts.
And then the next 5 years after that, it's basically 25.5.
Yeah, those are big contracts.
Now, assuming that he's continued to be found guilty, and he's been found guilty now twice in the Dominican Republic, and
yeah,
it sounds like he's probably going to appeal again. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Yes, but assuming he continues to be found guilty, then you're not going to owe that money. But you can't be guaranteed of that. So that money sits there. You have to account for that on a team.
How
that's
long
already
would you have to
payroll.
account for it, you think?
Until 2033, when the contract's up.
Well, that almost
unless at some
that's
point
like paying the guy.
Unless at some point baseball says he's banned from baseball, that would
well,
void the.
They would certainly help the situation, and for that matter, we don't know that he could get a visa, right, based on his criminality.
Well, that's the thing, but you still have to account for it unless you can get the contract voided.
Voided out. Yeah.
You'd have to go to court basically to do that, or there may be something in the CBA to do that. I don't know that, but you're on the hook for it at this point. Like, you have to account for it every season. Now, right now, you're not paying it out. So, that's a good thing for the Rays because you're not getting your services either. But it's still there. So, on a team that struggles financially compared to bigger market teams, it's still something that's there. Like, people don't talk about it, but it's there. They have to account for it. Because if all of a sudden he, in the Dominican Republic, was found not guilty and says, all right, I'm coming back, gets a visa because he's not a criminal. Baseball may fight it for a little bit, but they're going to lose. And he'll get paid. Whether he plays or not, he'll get paid.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't, the way it's been going in the Dominican Republic, now twice he's been found guilty. So, at this point, maybe you're assuming he won't be ever playing here again. And I think that's a fair assumption, probably the likely one, but it ain't the legal and the accounting one.
Mm-mm.
So it makes everything harder on this team. It really does. And a team that was really built to be built around that star too. Like, it completely changed the trajectory of this franchise in many ways.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he was that dude. And I don't even want to think about, had Wander not be charged with what he's charged with, what it would be like to have Wander Franco at short and Junior Caminero at third. Good God. I mean, you talk about an infield now and a couple of, two of the greatest players in baseball. But it's funny, throughout the years when the Rays would go to the postseason, the one thing that would get them would be the lack of runs many times, and you'd see these other teams, Aaron Judge's, although he struggled in playoffs before too, but you'd see these other teams and they'd always have a couple of superstars that could hit the ball out of the park, and did. Now we have seen that in Tampa before too, but I think if Caminero is going right and Aranda can protect him or Yandy can protect him, he could carry you through a playoffs. He could definitely get hot at the right time. Now, he's gotten fortunate that over these last couple games, he's gotten pitches to hit. And, for the longest time, no one's throwing him the ball over the plate. And he was getting himself out, getting a little anxious, expanding the zone, that sort of thing. The more he can just stay locked in and make them come to him, which won't be often, and he hasn't missed, that's going to be the secret to his success. But, I just think he showed, and it's a small sample size because we're talking about 7 games here, but to do something in 7 games that most players cannot do, and do it with the power that he's had. And he drove in runs. He had other hits too that drove in runs. I think he drove in the first run on Sunday. So that a guy like that with some help around him, and I think they could add some help because I don't think they're done. If you're Eric Neander, let me ask you a question. You're like, And Neander is the quintessential of saying, "Well, doesn't guarantee us anything, but what our record is, our wins are right now, right?" But if you're him and you look at your club and you'd like to do something on, from a pitching standpoint if you can, and or a hitting standpoint, but I think that one more bat in that lineup, just as protection, maybe another person that can hit the big fly, because you don't, as a team, you don't hit a lot of home runs. You don't need to necessarily, but it's a hard way to go, especially in the postseason. Don't you think that he's at that point halfway through the season in first place, saying we have to go for it? Now the owners are going to have a say about that too, obviously, because they're the ones got to write a check for this guy. But I'd be damned if I wouldn't, consider very heavily and or attempt to bring in a pretty good hitter to help that lineup. You
That's
don't
my
need
priority
much.
number one. That's my
Yeah,
priority number one.
I would.
Not pitching.
Yeah,
I want pitching too. Don't get me wrong, but
sure.
I want hitting. But the question, the biggest question is how much can Neander add? How much is new ownership going to let him add?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I think they will, based on the way the season's gone. I don't, had they been 500 and whatever, maybe they couldn't. But
yeah,
I think they will add. How much they're allowed to, we'll see. That's kind of going to be the first real on-field test of the new ownership group.
Well, and I think there's always an assumption that, like, well, look, Junior's young, and we're going to get better as we go along, and wait till we're in the new stadium, we'll have money for free agency, and we're going to be a contender for years and years to come. Hey, don't forget about this year, okay? Because I watched the Toronto Blue Jays a lot last season, and I could not have predicted they would have been in the World Series and very close to beating the Dodgers, right? So if you've got that window open or even cracked a little bit, yeah, keep it open, because there's no guarantee you're going to be back in this situation. As much as you look at it and you go, well, this guy's young and we got this and it's a great organization, we're going to get more money in the new stadium. All that sounds great, but don't forget about 2027 or 2026, I guess we're in. Don't forget about this year, because you may find yourself, able to compete and win a World Series now. And if you just added another piece or two, like professional sports, man, the one thing it's taught me is that, you can't bank on tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You really can't.
The hard part this year is, one, what will new ownership let them do? But two, nobody's out of it.
Nobody's out of it.
The worst team in the American League is 7 games out of a wild card spot.
Yeah. That's how bad the American League is.
Jump over everybody.
Yeah.
But all but 3 teams are within 4.5 of the wild card.
That's crazy.
The top wild card right now is below 500. Seattle, 42 and 43.
Yeah, look how great they were last year.
So who's a seller? In the National League, all but 3 teams are within. So there's only
that's
6
a problem.
teams. There's only 6 teams in baseball right now that aren't 4.5 games within a wild card.
Yeah, that's a problem if you're trying to acquire players.
Yeah. But at the same time, because there aren't that many good teams, I don't know how many are buying.
Well, that's a good point too.
If you're Seattle in the 3rd wild card spot, a game under 500, how much are you willing? How much do you think your team has a shot to win it this year?
That's a good point.
So it's going to be, I think if you're Eric Neander, you'd like to make a trade sooner than later, but I think a lot of these are going to go down to the wire this year, because I don't think teams know what they want to do yet. And it may literally come down to the week of the trade deadline going, did we just win 3 or 4 in a row or lose 3 or 4 in a row? And that may determine whether we're buying or selling. For the teams on the bubble, we're just outside the wild card. It's going to be interesting.
No, it really is. And, this Yankees-Rays series battle for the top spot, I think that's going to come down to the wire too. I'm convinced now. I really did think that the Rays were kind of losing. They're letting go of the rope a little bit. But, they
a
did
week
not.
from tonight, the Yankees come to the Trop for a 4-game series.
Jeez, it's going to be so good. But every one of those games should be on national TV. That's going to be really great.
but the Nationals go Tampa. Wait, there's a team in Tampa. What? Oh wait, what?
I know.
They're not even in Tampa. Wait, we don't even
It's
know that either
insane.
because we call them Tampa.
It's just Tampa, the Tampa Rays. They're not even in Tampa. They were last year, but they're not now. It's a little confusing. Yeah, Tampa Bay Rays.
That
I
series is going to be
credit
huge.
I credit the Trop. There's magic in the Trop.
Well, look, I mean, we did talk about it too. Like this team was built more for the Trop than Steinbrenner Field.
Absolutely.
Like, and this team really, with the small ball and the way they're playing and stuff, is really built for the Trop.
True. Yeah.
You know, and they're doing things that teams don't know how to defend anymore, like a bunt.
Well, and look how much better their pitching is in that building.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, look, if they score 4 or 5, if they score 4, you might say this about every major league team, but if the Rays score 4, I don't know what their record is. I bet it's pretty damn good though. You don't have to score 5, 6 runs a game with these guys. You just don't. They're going to beat you 4-3 almost every night. You know, they just get going a little bit and not have to chase the game. So, but that bullpen has been terrific, you know, and they've had a lot of players through there too. And, you know, and the starting pitching has been solid. It could still get better, I think, but their studs are their studs. You know, every time Raz gets the ball, I mean, he's going to go out there and give you an unbelievable chance to win. His record should probably be much better than it is right now, truth be told. He has that many decisions because he goes 7 innings every game, you know. They're fun to watch when they're going well. But the biggest thing is the tear that Caminero's on. I mean, it's just
so fun
special.
To watch.
It's special, right? And the sound, like even over the internet, you listen to that ball that went 460 something feet, dude. It's a loud smack, you know, that it gets your attention. So that's been really, really cool. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about Baker Mayfield and some statements that he made at the University of Oklahoma during his football camp. But first, get on down to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. They've been our sponsors. You know where they're at. Center of the mall, second floor. That's where you're going to find the Breitling Boutique. The Breitling Company has been making the best Swiss watches now for going on 140 years. They've been in International Plaza for 6 years now. You want to enjoy the customer service because I'm telling you, these folks, they're used to dealing with celebrities and athletes, professional athletes. They're going to treat you exactly as they do those VIPs. Go into the store and spend some time there, right? Let them pour you a drink, tell you about their men's watches, the Navitimers, the Chronomat watches that they are known for. Also, ladies' watches. These are sports watches primarily. They're durable, beautiful, and you can choose from a different array of colored wristbands. And they have elegant watches as well for ladies that you can check out. And while supplies last, the Breitling Boutique is celebrating the NFL's 104th anniversary with 32 different team watches. These are Chronomat watches for men for the most part. They have the team colors on the face of the watch, the logo inside. And I'm told now there are 3 different variations of each team watch, including a sports watch, which looks terrific. It is Breitling Boutique. It's at International Plaza Mall. What's taking you so long? Get on down there. And when you go, let them know you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. This past weekend, Baker Mayfield, remember he had the football camp at the Bucs facility, indoor facility, and he broke a little news when he talked about, you know, wanting a contract done and wanting negotiations to end by the start of training camp, which kind of puts a deadline on it. He spoke out during his camp at the University of Oklahoma, and I thought he struck kind of a more conciliatory tone. He said, look, I would love to be there. I think both sides want to get it done. Now it's a matter of finding that middle ground and what makes both sides happy. Much more positive, much more upbeat about his stance, his situation. No mention of, hey, it's got to happen by the start of training camp. He didn't back off on that, but nonetheless, sounded way more positive than he did earlier. I thought that was interesting and maybe a little bit telling on some level. But
well, I wonder why. Is it they're close to a deal? that they've talked since the first offer that they didn't counter,
Mm-hmm.
and they're coming to a
Made
deal?
progress, yeah.
Or is it he wanted the message out but didn't like the way it was received publicly? And so he's taking a more reserved tone about it,
More optimistic for sure.
or optimistic, and knowing that, if a deal doesn't get done, he's got to lead this team into this season,
Yeah.
not just for the public, but his teammates too.
Can't be a Debbie Downer.
Yep. Or maybe it's a combination of both.
Yeah. Well, we don't know because I haven't had any specific conversation with his agent of late, so it's possible that they've exchanged more numbers. Look, if Baker is true to what he said and he wants this done or the negotiations done by the start of training camp, you're not that far away, man. You're only about 4 weeks away, 5 on the outset. So that clock is ticking a little louder now. I know there's vacations involved, and I don't know, whether they've been actively, trying to exchange numbers at this point or not. But there is a deadline out there, that Baker has set. And you
Well,
could
there may be
right.
vacations involved, but people are working during the vacations to sign a quarterback.
Absolutely.
Jason Light's taking calls and doing that on vacation.
His phone is available. But you made the point, and you may be right about this, that they could have made progress, but also I think it was, first of all, Baker doesn't do anything without purpose. He's a very intentional guy with everything he says, everything he does. So I don't think it was an accident that when he was asked about his contract, for the first time at that camp at One Buck Place, that he was like, not going well, disappointed in where we're at, and not going to talk after the start of training camp. It came across pretty, adversarial in some respects. It is possible, as we were talking earlier, that he didn't like and at the end of the day, he didn't like the coverage of that, the tone of that, a little too negative, not as optimistic, probably not even as realistic as it's going to be. Because, look, I'm one to believe that I'm not betting mortgages here unless it's yours, but my experience tells me when two sides want to get something done, that's when it happens, right? And both, believe me, both the Bucs and Baker Mayfield want this to continue, right? They want to get something that works for both parties. And usually when that's the case, you come to a middle ground at some point. Not automatic by any means, but usually that's the case. So maybe he realized, hey, that was a little harsh. There's the other thing is that he was, during the off season when there's not much going on, you have a kind of a soundbite like that, you go viral. I mean, that story was everywhere, right? They were debating that one and all the debate shows, and it's the summertime and some people are taking vacation. You got the fill-in host and whatnot. But they were all talking about Baker Mayfield. And so it probably got a little bit more coverage than it deserved, quite frankly. Not that, he's not an important player, but we're just at the start of negotiations. So I think all of that could be true. I think he could have looked at it and said, I wish I hadn't, come down that hard. But that was so intentional. Like he wanted the Bucs
I
and
think
fans to know.
he wanted the message out there.
Yes.
I just don't know if he liked the way it came off, or maybe his tone, maybe the exact words he used, or just the way it got covered. And part of it being it's summertime in the NFL, they're looking for anything to talk about.
Oh, it was the story.
Yeah.
And everyone talked about it.
I think it was intentional that he was waiting for the question.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Because he knows he's going to get it there.
Sure. Yeah, he definitely was. And Baker is never one to not have an answer. He will answer questions. If it's a legit one, he's going to answer it for you. And I do think that, whatever their offer was certainly had to be something further south of what he thought it would be. But that's not their last offer. That was their first offer. So I know that Tom Mills, that his agent, there'll be more talks, and it'll accelerate as we get closer to training camp. You always get your best deal on the last day, which is why I think the deadline might actually work for him. I think that's probably a smart move, to be honest with you. But just interesting, and maybe it was that, he said some other things like, look, whether I'm there or not, Tampa is going to be our home. We love it there. Like, he's talking about, he's going to have a second child, the great Maverick Mayfield, and or has had one, so they have two. I'm not trying to give her a third, but they have two, and so, you know, he's made he's making and has made Tampa his home and will continue to do so, whether he's playing here or not, or so he says. Um, and that's how much he's kind of grown to love this community and found a home, literal and otherwise. I just can't imagine the Buccaneers not working this out. I cannot imagine that they couldn't. And look,
Well,
he's going to be $50 million quarterback. It's just how much do you guarantee?
but you say you can't imagine the Bucs working this out, and I agree with you for the most part. But
Mm.
what if Baker says, "I want to be the highest paid quarterback in football"?
Well, if he does that, he's probably not going to get a deal here.
Because all
You know.
these deals, and it's easy to say the Bucs have to get this done, but it takes two
Right.
to tango.
Well, it does. It
Now, I don't
absolutely
think
does.
Baker's asking for that, and I think this will get done.
Yeah.
But if he says Dak's getting 60, I'm better than Dak,
Yeah.
and Jason goes, you're not worth 60 in our eyes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
Like-
salaries are going up, and he was 15th, and he's going to want to be probably in the top 10 if he can get there. Top 10 or 12. So it is a bump. It's a serious bump, and every quarterback that signs is going to make it, make his contract look worse. So I think that I've known Jason a long time. I know how he feels about Baker. Certainly Todd Bowles' career is staked on this guy. They don't have anybody else really that can, lead them right now. And it's a very winnable division. I've seen some of the odds makers have the Bucs as the favorite to win the NFC South again, even though Carolina won it last year.
It's funny. A lot of them have Carolina last.
I know. I saw that. Everybody's bullish on New Orleans. You know what? New Orleans won their last, 5 games? Or 5 out of the last 6 or something like that? They seem to have a quarterback now. I mean, yeah, don't write them off just yet either. It'll be an interesting division. And not to mention, you're starting the season with Joe Burrow, who said that his Bengals are going to the Super Bowl. Your Bengals, I should
Well,
say.
he said it feels a lot like the 19 LSU team.
Jeez. How good were they?
Maybe the greatest college football team ever.
Right? They give the Miami Hurricanes a run for their money. Yeah, they were really good. We're going to find out week 1. That's going to be a hell of a game. That really is. That now is one hell of a matchup. Not sure it's great for the Bucs to have to play first week, but
I might want to play them the first week over the 10th. I mean, based on a new defense.
Well,
and,
true.
and
They've been
all
a
the
slow
changes they've
starter.
made, but
yeah. And you don't know exactly what you're getting in Reuben Bain if you're going against him the first time, right?
mm-hmm.
I'm sure they'll have a plan for him, but you haven't been on the grass with the guy or Jeremiah Trotter or any of those other guys. So there is something. Look, I'll say this: for as much as they've had these collapses these last few years, that is only a contrast to their starts. There's one thing you can almost be assured of is that Todd Bowles knows how to prepare his team to start the season. They start fast, they just do. And that's a credit to him. Now, not a credit to him is that they also fade very quickly and have a midseason swoon. So they have to avoid that. But, typically they finish fast as well. But he prepares them very well. And I'm interested, too, to see how training camp looks because they spent a lot of time talking about all the injuries they had last year. And they made some changes on the training staff. And they're talking about doing things differently in practice this year. So, there had to be a lot of dehydration when you have soft tissue injuries. You wonder how much running they were doing in that offense. You wonder if they'll use the indoor facilities more or maybe not at all, as has been the case a little bit with Todd Bowles. Bruce Arians liked the indoor facility. Todd does not. So we'll have to see what adjustments they make with that. But I think it's going to be a much closer to. I think there's going to be more than just 2 teams. I think it's going to be more of a 3-team race than a 2-team race this year. I think New Orleans can get in it.
Well, it was a 3-way tie last year with Atlanta.
Well, yeah, and Atlanta has a new coach, and
Right.
Tua Tagovailoa is going to win that job, I think. You
That's
still
what
have
gave
Michael Penix
Carolina the
Jr..
division, if you remember.
That is exactly, yeah, and they had to come. I believe they came from behind against New Orleans, wasn't it?
Yep.
When they won that game, and if it had New Orleans won, then the Bucs would have been in the postseason. But they didn't deserve it. They gave away their chances, and now, um, you got a lot of new players on defense. I'm going to go on the record as saying I think this defense is going to be pretty good. I don't know, certainly better than last year, which isn't saying much, but I think they got some real players, starting with Ruben Bain. I can't wait for people to see him play. Unless I'm wrong, and I don't think I am about this one. I mean, Todd Bowles was effusive, and he didn't say that about anybody. Even the guys that he knows can play. So that was interesting. All right, so the Rays have a day off finally. This is their only day off here in quite a while, I believe.
Well, you do have the All-Star break coming up, so.
Oh, yeah, but they're on the stretch where
this is the last. This is they have 13 straight games.
13 straight.
Then the All-Star break. Yep.
Yeah.
So they're on the road at Kansas City and Houston this week, home against the Yankees and Mariners next week.
There you go. See if they can get it done the way they do at the Trop. They're terrific at home.
World Cup's in the knockout rounds now.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey, Canada made it to the knockout round.
They won their first game.
And won their first game. Yeah.
Yep. Beat South Africa today, 1-0. So
yeah,
there'll be 3 games today. USA plays at 8:00 on Wednesday night.
And they play what?
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be wild. It's been fun. Little too many teams for me. Trying to keep track of them all.
Well, just wait till it goes to 64 in the next, or either 2030 or 2034. It's going to 64.
Men's basketball tournament now. Yeah.
Well, that's going to 76 now. So.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
College football playoff will be at 24 before we know it. So
it's all about the money. They're making a lot of money. So good for them. Hey, get your mailbag questions in. You can do that. I've gotten some in already that we'll get to later in this week. You can do that on Twitter at SportsDayTB. Reach me at NFL Stroud. Email address is rstroud@tampabay.com. Make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall. Check out the beautiful NFL team watches while supplies last. Watches for your wife or girlfriend. It is Breitling Boutique, and let them know you heard about it here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening, everybody. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day.